StripTill is a practice that many farmers are now using across the country, and today we wanted to talk about why and get into some more of the specifics, because this is something we're doing on some of our acres on our farm as well. Now, before we talk about StripTill too, I know that you may be a no-tiller, you may be a conventional tiller. You know what? We believe that all tillage practices can work, but they all have a fit in different situations. So we want to explain that a little bit as well.
Well, they all have strengths and weaknesses. I mean, there's no perfect system out there, otherwise everybody would be doing it.
Right.
So we wanted to talk about these advantages and disadvantages of StripTill so you can consider whether it's worth using on your farm. Now for our farm, we've got some rolly hills, as you can probably see in this particular field that we've been in today. And when you've got those rolly hills, erosion becomes a big concern for you. So in fields like this, we don't really like to do conventional tillage just because our potential for erosion is a big deal. Now, we went to no-till for a number of years, and no-till has great advantages, especially with reducing erosion potential. But we looked at StripTill and we thought, you know, is this going to be a problem for StripTill? When we're doing, you know, just a 7 or 8 inch wide band, is that going to be enough tillage out there to really significantly increase our erosion?
Well, once again, like Darren said, there is no perfect system. So no-till is going to mean the least amount of erosion in a field. If you have StripTill, you're going to have a little bit more erosion, but what you gain, the two big things that you gain, is you've got a warmer soil, a warmer seed bed right in that strip. And then the other thing, the number one reason why we wanted to do StripTill is we could place the fertilizer better, because I just do not want to have all our fertility either broadcast on the top or banded right with the seed or anything like that. That just isn't going to cut it when we're trying to go for big time yields. We're trying to build up our entire soil profile going down a couple feet in the ground, and it's going to start by getting that StripTill fertilizer down 10 to 12 inches deep. So basically we're leading that root down a little bit deeper in the soil. We know at 10 or 12 inches deep we've got more moisture down there, more consistent moisture down there. So when we have dry spells in the summertime, like we often do, we've got that moisture down there. If we have fertility down that deep as well, now we can completely feed that plant.
Well, and guys say, you know, how wide does that strip need to be? And it needs to have a little bit of width to it, because not only do you have to get that row somewhere in your strip, you also need to have those gauge wheels running through there too, so they have a nice consistent seeding depth. If you've got gauge wheels off to the side of that strip, well, all of a sudden now, instead of maybe a nice tilthy soil, you've got a more firm soil out there, or you've got some corn stalks or something off to the side of that strip, and you need to be real cautious of that, or your gauge wheels are going to bounce up over that, your seeding depth is going to be uneven. Now the other thing that we get questions about is, all right, we're doing this in the fall, we want the black strip in the spring so it warms up. How much corn stalks and other residue is going to blow back over that thing?
Some of the stuff is going to blow back over. So if you're going to try to just go out in the spring and do nothing other than plant, that's fine, but you want to have some kind of row cleaners to get that little bit of residue that might blow back in and get that off of there. Now, a lot of farmers in our region, where we are a little bit colder up in South Dakota, into North Dakota, Minnesota, in those areas, a lot of the guys, they just aren't real big on StripTill because they say, well, it's not going to warm my soil up enough. The thing is, though, it is going to warm it up a lot more than no-till, and it does help in terms of reducing erosion. So you've got to look at both sides of the thing. And we also find a lot of guys that they'll StripTill for soybeans. So in other words, they'll go out and StripTill in their corn, then they'll plant soybeans, but they really worry about that corn. They don't want to StripTill in the soybean ground so much and put that corn out there because they're just so concerned that, boy, that corn just isn't going to emerge fast enough. We've got to do more aggressive tillage to make sure that that ground is black going into corn.
Okay, now you talk about the differences going into corn and soybeans. How about fertility-wise? Because there are a lot of guys that want to put on a big load of fertilizer in front of corn, and they say, okay, well, that's nice for StripTill every other year, but what do I do, you know, in front of my beans? I'm not going to put a whole bunch of fertilizer out there, and they're just wrong.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, maybe they do have enough fertilizer out there for their soybeans.
No,
but
they don't.
Well, I'm just saying there are some people that probably do, but on average, what we find is most farmers don't have enough for 2 years. They only have enough for the one crop. So on our farm, for example, we are doing StripTill in front of corn and in front of soybeans. This is in 30-inch rows. Now, if you're in a different row spacing, that's going to make that more difficult. But in 30-inch rows, we like it. For both corn and soybeans, we do put a full load of fertilizer out for each crop. Now, I'm not saying we overload or anything, but at least we're putting out enough fertility to raise a good soybean crop, to raise a good corn crop. And I think that's one of the reasons why our bean yields are as good as they are, because we do fertilize our beans.
Well, there are certainly a lot of things to talk about when we're considering which tillage practice we're using on our farm and what one you're going to use on your farm.
Well, hey, yeah, but before we say that, again, where we started this whole thing is you can make anything work. You can make no-till work, conventional till, strip till. So don't be thinking that we're trying to talk you into doing strip till. We're just telling you, hey, if you want to use this tillage practice, you certainly can. The reason why a lot of guys have gone to this recently is because fertilizer prices are high, and what they found is they can cut their fertilizer rate, or put it another way, in order to get the same yields, they need to put on a lot more broadcast P and K to get that same kind of result. So on our farm, we've run a study for about the last 10 years on full fields now, where we've gone out with 50% more P and K in broadcast as compared to what we've done in strip till. 50% more P and K in the broadcast. Okay, so think about how many more dollars you've spent there and which is getting the most yield. Neither one, they're about the same. Okay, so you can spend a bunch more money and do broadcast, or you can reduce that fertilizer cost and put it in the strip till.
Well, not only are you going to have more availability because that fertilizer is right around the root system, so the roots can more easily access it, you're going to have less tie-up, especially if you've got problems with your soil. Maybe you've got high pH or low pH, or you've got a high level of magnesium or something in your soil that's going to tie things up. Well, not only are you going to avoid some of that tie-up by putting it close together, you can certainly use products like a veil to try and protect that fertilizer from tie-up too. So you get kind of a double benefit by putting it in the strip.
Well, once again, strip till is a growing practice in the United States. The reason why it's gained so much in popularity the last few years, it's not only high fertilizer prices, it also has a lot to do with the fact that now we have RTK GPS, so you can very accurately go out and place that strip in the fall. You can follow it exactly in the spring with a planter. That's what we've been doing on our farm, and it works out really nice.
Well, one other thing that works nice with strip till is weed control. We'll talk about this particular weed and what a big problem it can be coming up later in the show.